Hello, my name is Marc Myers, and we're at Frontier Dairy today, and we're going to talk about an LDA, which is a left displacement of the abomasum. We're going to talk about what causes it, how to diagnose it, and mainly the treatment of it. So, the left displacement of an LDA is generally caused by after a cow has her calf, before she has a calf actually, her rumen shrinks to make room for the calf. Now, when this rumen shrinks, it gives the abomasum room to move around in there. Where normally the rumen's full of fluids, and the rumen is the actual stomach of the cow. It secretes acids and gases. Well, when the rumen's shrunk to make room for that calf, after the calf comes out, then that abomasum can float up to the side between the rumen and the body wall, and this kinks off the inflow and outflow from the abomasum and prevents anything from getting in or out of it. So here's your abomasum in the normal position. It's on the bottom, and then your rumen's full size, got plenty of feed and water in it. Then, once the rumen shrinks after making room for the calf, if she's off of her feed for some reason, not drinking, or she has a temperature or whatever, she's not back to eating and drinking normally after having her calf, then it leaves that room, and then the abomasum can float up over here on the left side against the body wall. So to treat an abomasum or an LDA, a lot of people use the roll and toggle method, which is what this is right here. And this begins by, you can see they got a rope right here. So first you get a halter on the cow, tie her head low to the ground, and then you put a rope around her. So they'll have a rope around the base of her neck, right here behind her front shoulders, and right here in front of her udder. Now, this is called casting a cow, and what it does is once you pull that rope tight, it puts pressure on several different pressure points of the cow, and it'll force her to lay down. And once she lays down, then you'll roll her over, and you always want to make sure once she's down, you roll her to the right. So you'll get her up on her back like this, and then you want to take her hind legs, and you'll secure them out of the way so she can't kick, and they're just out of the way. Then, using your knee, leg, whatever, you'll push right here, and what that'll do is that'll bring the LDA up against the body wall. So when you roll her upside down, if you roll her to the right, there's a chance then it can float back to where it should be. So when you push on this, push down back here, it forces that abomasum up here tight against the body wall, because pushing all the slack out back here. It forces up against that, and with the stethoscope, you can listen and verify that it is where it needs to be. Once you get it up there, then from the tip of the sternum, you go 4 inches down and just to the right of the midline, and then you'll puncture a hole. Now what this does is it gives you an access point to put in a toggle, which is, I don't know, like a little plastic pill with a piece of string on it. What it is you'll punch this thing. This thing here is basically just a metal straw. It's like a real big needle. You punch it through, and then you don't want to let none of that gas escape out of the abomasum yet, because you'll need to keep it tight so you can punch a second hole. So you punch your first hole, and then you'll go about a hand's length, 3 inches from the first toggle, which is, I don't know, the width of a hand, and then you'll punch another hole. So put a toggle in each of them, and then you can tie them together. But when you tie them together, you want to make sure that you have, you put your hand in here like this, and then tie them together like that. What that does is when you roll her back over and let her stand up, and make sure there's enough slack in those lines, then it's not just going to pull and tear through the body wall, because that's bad news. So what that does is it'll hold the abomasum to the body wall and let those gases escape, and it'll keep it from floating back up to where it should be. The gas can get out, and then you ought to be in good shape for a little while. So here they are. They've just punctured the hole. and they're plugging that off so they don't lose all their gas. This right here is where they're using their hand as that gauge, make sure they have enough slack before they let her stand up. This is called a button. Some people like to use them rather than just putting your hand in. All it really does is it just makes sure, it makes it less likely. It makes sure you have enough slack, kind of like using your hand, but this is more likely to keep it from pulling through. So after you get this done, you want to continue to roll the cowl over all the way to the right. So when you initially casted her, you laid her down, you rolled her to the right to get her feet up, her belly up in the air and her feet up. Then when you get done, you want to continue to roll her to the right. And this keeps it from going, that abomasum from trying to pull back over there. Once you get her back up, you need to pump her with fluids, fill that rumen up with a bunch of water, a lot of electrolytes. That just fills the rumen. The rumen will swell and it'll go back to how it normally will be, and it'll hold the abomasum in place. And then once you get that water in her, it's all right. Once you get that water in her, then she's gonna get hungry, then she's gonna start eating again. Once she starts eating again, then she's gonna start drinking again, then she's gonna keep that rumen full on her own. But initially, right after you get the LDA done, you just need to do it. And what you gain by doing it this way is hospital guys can do it themselves rather than having to have a full-blown surgery and call a vet out and all this kind of stuff and open up the cow, and risk infection, all this. You can just, a guy that's been trained on how to do this properly, he can do it and save you a lot of money and some time. So Grimer and Sterner, they're the guys that invented this method of dealing with an LDA, and according to them, it's 80 to 90% effective to use the roll and toggle method versus a surgery. And the farm animal surgery textbook says 80% of DAs occur in the first month after calving. It's also more common in your high yielding cows and older cows. And the Merc vet, there's also a right displacement of the abomasum, but it's not nearly as likely, and that is because, let's go back here. So if you can see right here, so right here is kind of some of the intestines. So you got all those intestines and over there keeping it from floating up over here. It can happen, but it's not very likely. So according to the Merc veterinary manual, left displacement of the abomasum is 30 to 1 is the odds of a left displacement of the abomasum occurring versus a right displacement of the abomasum. We're good? Any questions? What
Do we want to clean her really good and disinfect before you?
Yes. I would. Yes, George.
Do we want to let air out in that second toggle?
Once you have your toggles in, you can let all the air escape.
Okay.
Because you just got to make sure you keep as much in there as you possibly can on that first puncture.
Make sure you keep all the air in.
That way it's tight, so you can.
Let open.
Yeah.
Whoop. Okay.
All right. So that's that.
Do we give him a round?
Thanks for letting me have you guys this time. I know y'all got stuff you need to be doing. I appreciate it.
Cool.
Hit the same button.